The Galactic Education Board had warned Ellen 3 times before she accepted the posting. Humans? Teaching Krovan younglings? The administrator had chittered through his translator. Inadvisable. They're apex predators from a death world. You're from a death world. The combination is unprecedented. Elin had smiled and signed the contract anyway. Student loans didn't pay themselves. The classroom aboard Station Kepler 442 was designed for Krovan physiology, high ceilings, reinforced furniture, and temperature controls that kept the room uncomfortably warm for human standards. When Ellen first met her 12 students, she understood the warnings. Each Krovan cub stood nearly as tall as her shoulder, covered in russet fur, with retractable claws that could shred steel. Their golden eyes tracked her every movement with predatory precision. But they were children. Curious, energetic, and desperately in need of someone who understood mathematics. Rav was the smallest of the group, a runt by Krovan standards, though still formidable by any human measure. The other cubs ignored him during breaks, their social hierarchy as rigid as their military traditions. Ellen noticed. "Rav," she said after the 3rd lesson, when the others had bounded out for recreational combat training. "Stay a moment?" The cub's ears perked slightly. "Yes, Tutor Ellen? I saw your work on quantum probability matrices. You're getting concepts that students twice your age struggle with." She pulled up his assignment on the holo display. "Why do you hide this?" Ravi's claws extended unconsciously, scraping the desk. "The pack values strength, physical dominance. I am weak. You're different," Ellen corrected. She sat on the edge of her desk, meeting his eyes. "On my world, we have a saying. The mind is the ultimate weapon. Your people are warriors, Rav. But every warrior needs a strategist." Something shifted in the cub's posture. For the first time, his tail didn't tuck between his legs. Over the following weeks, the classroom transformed. Ellen didn't just teach mathematics, she taught application. Orbital mechanics became siege warfare calculations. Statistical analysis became battle planning. Thermodynamics became energy weapon optimization. The cubs thrived. More importantly, they began to see Rav differently. When he calculated a faster hyperspace route during a problem set, saving theoretical ships 3 days of travel, the largest cub, Car, rumbled approval. "Strategist," Car acknowledged. The first time any of them had used a title of respect for Rav. Ellen smiled. This was why she taught. Then the Scarix came. The alert pierced through Lesson 47, turning the station's lights blood red. Hostile vessels detected. Scarix raiders. All civilians to emergency shelters. This is not a drill. Ellen's blood went cold. The Scarix were slavers, pirates who preyed on outlying stations. Kepler, 442's defensive fleet, was 3 hours away at minimum burn. "Everyone, move!" Elin commanded, herding her cubs toward the designated shelter. But the corridor outside erupted in weapons fire. Through the reinforced window, she saw station security falling back, overwhelmed. The Scarix were already aboard. "Tutor Ellen," Rav's voice cut through the chaos, steady and calm. "The shelter route is compromised. We need an alternative." 12 pairs of golden eyes turned to her. Waiting. Trusting. Elin's mind raced through station schematics she'd memorized during orientation. Maintenance shaft 7B. Leads to the cargo bay where the emergency pods are stored. "Distance?" Rav asked. 200 meters. "Enemy positions?" Car growled. "Unknown. We'll be moving blind." Rav moved to the classroom's main terminal, his claws flying across the haptic interface. "Not blind. I can access environmental sensors. Show enemy heat signatures." The display flickered to life, showing red dots converging on their section. Too many. Too close. "We're trapped," one of the cubs whimpered. "No," Elin said firmly. "We're armed." She pointed to the reinforced furniture, the chemical compounds in the laboratory section, the maintenance tools. This is a classroom. But today, it becomes something else. Rav's eyes widened with understanding. A war chamber. What happened next would become legend in Krovan military academies. Rav coordinated from the terminal, tracking enemy movements and calling out positions. Ellen directed the cubs, her human ingenuity combining with their natural predatory instincts. Laboratory acids became caustic traps in the corridors. Furniture became barricades with calculated kill zones. The classroom's emergency oxygen system was repurposed into a pressure weapon. When the first Scarix breached the door, they found not cowering children, but a coordinated ambush. Carr led the frontal assault, while smaller cubs flanked from ventilation shafts positions calculated by Rove to maximize surprise. Ellen fought alongside them, wielding a plasma torch like a sword, her species' infamous endurance allowing her to match the cubs' ferocity. But she was only human. When a Scarix captain's energy blade caught her across the ribs, she went down hard. Tutor! Rav's anguished cry echoed through the chamber. Something primal awakened in the cubs. These were Krovan's apex predators, whose ancestors had conquered a world where everything wanted them dead. And someone had hurt their pack, had hurt their teacher. The fury that followed was surgical and terrifying. Rav's tactical mind, unconstrained by doctrine, turned the classroom into a killing field. Every lesson Ellen had taught them trajectory calculations, energy distribution, probability matrices became weapons in the cubs' paws. When station security finally fought through to their section, they found 12 Krovan cubs standing guard over their injured tutor, surrounded by unconscious Scarix raiders. The classroom was destroyed, but every cub was alive. Rav sat beside Elin, his paw carefully pressed against her wound to slow the bleeding, his other paw still on the terminal, tracking threat patterns. Strategist, Elin whispered, pride cutting through her pain. I told you. The medics stabilized her quickly. Later, as she recovered in the station's medical bay, the Krovan ambassador himself visited. Behind him stood 12 cubs, freshly groomed and unusually quiet. Tutor Ellen, the ambassador said, his voice carrying ceremonial weight. You have done what we thought impossible. You have taught Krovan cubs not just knowledge, but wisdom. You have shown them that strength takes many forms. He gestured to Rav, who stepped forward, standing taller than Ellen had ever seen him. My people wish to offer you a position. Not as a tutor, but as an instructor at our military academy, teaching the next generation of Krovan warriors that the mind and claw must work as one. Ellen looked at her cubs, her students, her pack, at Rav, who had saved them all with nothing but intelligence and courage. At Carr, who had learned that a good warrior follows a good strategist. She smiled, wincing slightly at her bandaged ribs. I accept, but on one condition. Rav comes with me as my teaching assistant. The cub's ears shot up in surprise, his tail wagging despite his attempts at dignity. The ambassador's fangs showed in what Ellen had learned to recognize as a smile. Agreed. Though I suspect, Tutor, that you will find our cubs far less challenging than what you have already survived. As they left, Carr rumbled quietly to Rav. Our pack has the best strategist, and the most dangerous tutor in the galaxy. Rav's chest swelled with pride. She's human. What did you expect? And in that moment, the lesson was complete. Humanity had taught the predators something new, that the greatest weapon wasn't claws or fangs, but the courage to stand and fight for those you protect, using whatever tools your mind could forge. Even if that tool was a classroom-turned-war chamber, even if the warriors were children, even if the teacher was just a human who refused to give up, because that's what humans did best.